You think you want money, but what you really want is what you believe money will give you. Safety, respect, love, meaning. The world has lied to you. It told you that to have value, you must have things. But the man with things is still empty inside. You do not need money to be rich. You need awareness. In this message, I will show you how to end the endless chase. Not by rejecting money, but by awakening from your dependence on it. You will understand why desire never satisfies, why greed grows even when the bank balance does, and how to shift from chasing wealth to attracting abundance naturally. You will learn how freedom, not fear, is the magnet for all prosperity. By the end, you will see that the richest person is not the one who owns the most, but the one who needs the least. I know the pain of those who spend their whole life chasing, always one step away from happiness. You've been told that once you have enough money, you'll finally rest. But that day never comes. Even the man with 10 million still says just a little more. The chase never ends because it was never about money. It was about your emptiness, your search for meaning, your fear of not being enough. The marketplace exploits that fear, selling you dreams it can never deliver. You keep running in circles, mistaking movement for progress. But what if I told you you can step out of that circle right now? What if wealth was never something to earn, but something to remember? And so in this time we share together. I will take you beyond the illusion of money, beyond greed, beyond fear, beyond the restless chase that has consumed humanity for centuries. We will explore why desire multiplies even after you achieve everything, why the rich remain poor in spirit, and how awareness turns ordinary life into abundance without effort. I will speak about how to dissolve your attachment to wealth, how to enjoy money without being owned by it, and how to return to the natural state where giving and receiving happen without grasping. We will journey from the hunger of the mind to the stillness of the heart, where money becomes a tool, not a temple. Stay with me till the end, because what you will discover is not a philosophy but a freedom. A freedom that makes you truly rich with or without a single coin. Here's something most people completely miss. Money is not real power. It only appears powerful because you've forgotten where true power comes from. Money is like the moon. It doesn't have its own light. It only reflects the light of your awareness. When awareness is gone, money shines brighter than it deserves to. But when awareness returns, you see money for what it really is. Just paper, numbers, a symbol created by fear and agreement. It has no life of its own. And yet most of humanity bows before it as if it were divine. You worship what you made, and you suffer because of your worship. Look around, the entire world is chasing the same illusion. From the poorest to the richest, everyone is running in circles after the same shadow. The poor man thinks, if I only had enough money, I'd be free. The rich man thinks, if I only had a little more, I'd be safe. The beggar and the billionaire are two ends of the same row, both tied to the same pole of fear. One is afraid of not having, the other is afraid of losing. Both are poor in the same way. Their wealth or their lack is just a reflection of their insecurity. Money became your God because fear became your religion. You've been taught since childhood that your value lies in what you earn, not in who you are. You've been trained to measure yourself by possessions, not presence. The marketplace whispers this lie every day. You are incomplete until you buy this, wear this, drive this. It keeps you hungry, restless, and obedient. The system depends on your lack of awareness. It needs you to chase because the chase feeds the machine. But pause for a moment and ask yourself, what are you really chasing? You think you want money, but what you want is the feeling you believe money will give you. You want safety, respect, peace. You want freedom. And yet the very chase for money takes all of that away. You work long hours for freedom and lose your time. You sacrifice peace for wealth and lose both. You become a prisoner in golden chains, expensive but still chains. I once told a story of a man who spent his entire life counting gold coins. He guarded them day and night, afraid someone might steal them. He never married, never saw the sunrise, never heard the laughter of children. When he died, they found him slumped over his treasure, his hands still clutching a coin, his face frozen in fear. He had all the wealth the world could offer, yet not a single moment of richness. Because richness is not about what you hold, it's about what you feel when your hands are empty. The mind uses money as a shield, a way to feel in control of a world it cannot control. That's why people chase it endlessly. Control is a poor substitute for awareness. You think if you just have enough, life will finally obey you. But life doesn't follow your commands. It responds to your energy. The more anxious you are about money, the more money slips away. The more you cling, the more it resists you. It's like chasing your own shadow. The faster you run, the faster it runs from you. Stop running, turn around, and you'll see it's been following you all along. When you understand this, your whole perspective shifts. You stop asking, how can I make more? And you begin asking, what fear is driving me to chase? Because when fear disappears, clarity arrives. And in clarity, money takes its rightful place. A servant, not a master. You start to use money without being used by it. You can enjoy it without depending on it. You can hold it without holding on. And that's where real wealth begins, not in accumulation, but in awareness. Once you see that money itself is only a mirror for your fear, the question changes completely. It's no longer about gaining. It's about seeing. You stop asking, how can I get richer, and start asking, why do I still believe I am poor? And that question, that honest, quiet question, is the beginning of true abundance. What I'm about to share might sound strange at first, because your entire life you've been taught that desire is natural, that ambition is progress, that hunger is the fuel of achievement. And yet this very hunger is the reason humanity remains restless, anxious, and forever unsatisfied. The mind is never still because it feeds on absence. It cannot live in what is. It only survives by dreaming of what could be. You could give the mind the entire world, and within minutes it would start imagining another one, slightly bigger, slightly better, slightly out of reach. This is the secret of why no one ever feels rich enough. The poor man dreams of a car. The man with a car dreams of an airplane, and the man with an airplane dreams of peace. And none of them have truly lived, because they are all starving for something that no possession can ever feed. Desire is a disease that disguises itself as drive. It whispers in your ear, just a little more, just one more promotion, one more house, one more success, and you obey, because the mind has convinced you that stillness means death. It cannot sit quietly because silence would reveal its emptiness. So it keeps you moving, keeps you buying, keeps you planning, keeps you running. Not because it knows where it's going, but because it's terrified of stopping. Have you noticed that even when you finally get what you wanted, the satisfaction barely lasts? You feel a moment of pleasure, a brief intoxication, and then the hunger returns. It's the same hunger, only dressed in new language. The object changes, the emptiness does not. There was once a businessman who came to me exhausted. He said, "Master, I've built everything, a company, a home, a name, but I can't sleep. Every night I feel a storm inside my head." I asked him, "What do you want now?" He said, "Peace." I told him, "Then stop chasing success and sit in silence." He laughed nervously. "That's impossible. If I stop, everything will collapse. And I said, no, my friend, if you never stop, you will collapse. A few months later, he returned. His empire was still standing, but his face had changed. He had learned to sit with himself for an hour each day without phone, without plan, without purpose. He told me, it's strange. I make less money now, but I feel richer than ever. That's the paradox. The moment you stop running after wealth, you start feeling wealthy. The mind confuses survival with significance. It wants to matter. It wants proof that it exists. Money becomes the scoreboard of its worth, a way to measure its importance in the eyes of others. That's why no amount of money ever satisfies it. Because comparison has no finish line. Even the billionaire looks over his shoulder and sees another billionaire ahead. He doesn't realize that he's comparing dreams inside a dream. When you chase money, you are not chasing life. You are chasing a thought, and thoughts have no end. The result is an endless marathon running through mirages. You die thirsty in a desert of your own making. Desire multiplies because absence creates absence. The more you feed it, the hungrier it gets. Like pouring water into a bucket full of holes. You can keep filling it forever and it will still remain empty. Every time you say, I'll be happy, when you postpone happiness. You place choice somewhere in the future, and then you spend your life traveling toward it. But the future never arrives. It's a mirage that moves just as fast as you do. The moment you pause, however, something miraculous happens. You realize the mirage was never there. It was the reflection of your own thirst. So why does the mind do this? Because it cannot exist without desire. The mind is made of movement. The moment you stop desiring, the mind begins to dissolve. And that's what it fears most, death. But what the mind calls death is actually liberation. When desire ends, you don't become less. You become vast. You become still, spacious, silent. You no longer move through life trying to reach something. Life begins to move through you. You no longer chase, you allow. And this allowing is what I call awareness. Only awareness can end this hunger. Because awareness reveals that nothing was missing in the first place. When you sit silently and look within, you start to see that peace was never gone. It was simply drowned out by noise. You start to see that the joy you were chasing was always waiting beneath the surface. When awareness enters, the whole game changes. You stop living like a beggar waiting for life to feed you. And you start living like a king who already has everything. You stop trading your soul for things that lose their shine the moment you hold them. And then something beautiful happens. Money loses its hypnotic power. It becomes what it always was, a simple tool, a form of energy. You can use it, but it cannot use you. You can create with it, share it, enjoy it, but you no longer depend on it for meaning. When you reach this space, desire still appears from time to time, but it no longer drags you around. It becomes a visitor, not a master. You can smile at it, watch it come and go, and stay rooted in your silence. So if the mind keeps creating hunger, what happens when you stop feeding it? What happens when you stop running? When you stop playing the game, you realize the race was never real. It was just movement inside your imagination. The moment you step out of the chase, the finish line disappears, and with it the exhaustion. What remains is simplicity, freedom, and a quiet joy that no amount of wealth could ever buy. What I am going to tell you now is not something the world will easily believe, because the world has been trained to think that life rewards effort. That success is born out of struggle. That the only way to win is to keep running faster than the rest. Yet the great secret of existence is exactly the opposite. Life flows towards stillness, not speed. Real wealth comes not to those who fight for it, but to those who are quiet enough to receive it. Everything in existence moves toward balance. The trees grow effortlessly. The rivers find their way without maps. And even the stars move in silence. Only man struggles. Only man believes that tension creates abundance, and that belief is the beginning of misery. Here's something the mind cannot understand. The harder you try to control life, the more life resists you. The more desperate you become to get something, the further it moves away. Because desire is a vibration of lack. It says to existence, I don't have. And existence being a mirror reflects that lack back to you. When you are restless, when you are constantly striving, you create resistance around yourself like ripples in disturbed water. Nothing can reach you. But when you are still deeply inwardly still, everything begins to come to you. This is not philosophy. It is law. The flower does not chase the bee. It simply opens and the bee arrives. The tree does not run around looking for sunlight. It stands still rooted, patient, and the light finds it. Life loves stillness because stillness is trust. True abundance requires trust, not tension. The universe has never failed to provide what is needed. Yet you have been taught to fear scarcity. The more you fear, the more you hoard. And the more you hoard, the poorer you feel. Look at the man who works day and night chasing money like a madman. His body grows tense. His sleep disappears. His laughter fades. Even when his hands are full, his heart is empty. He calls this progress. I call it slavery, because what is the point of earning the whole world if you lose the peace to enjoy it? The more you force life, the more it slips through your fingers like water, trying to be held too tightly. There was once a fisherman who lived by a wide and generous river. Every morning he threw his net, but he was always impatient, pulling it up too soon, afraid the fish might escape. He rarely caught anything and blamed the river for being stingy. One day an old man washed him and said, "The river was giving all along, but you never gave it time to offer its gift." That night, the fisherman tried differently. He threw the net, then sat quietly under the moonlight, listening to the water, breathing with it, waiting without expectation. When he pulled the net at dawn, it was overflowing. This is how life works. It is always ready to give, but only to the one who is patient enough to trust its timing. But you ask, how can I be still in a world that worships striving? How can I trust when everyone else is running? The answer is simple, though not easy. You must dare to be different. You must be brave enough to slow down when everyone else speeds up. Remember, awareness cannot arise in a crowd. It blooms in solitude. When you stop chasing, when you stop comparing, when you drop out of the race, something incredible happens. You begin to notice that life has always been running toward you. Money, opportunities, relationships, ideas, they all start flowing your way. But not because you forced them. They come because your energy no longer pushes them away. This is what I call the law of non-chasing. What you chase runs away. What you are, you attract. The energy of abundance is like the wind. It moves toward open spaces. When you're tense, fearful, or obsessed, you close yourself off. When you're relaxed, joyful, and present, you become wide open and life can enter. Money is not a cruel master. It is an obedient servant. It simply mirrors your state of being. When you are tight and grasping, it slips away. When you are open and trusting, it comes naturally like breath. So stop chasing money and start embodying abundance. Be so full within yourself that there is no room for lack. Be so deeply content that money becomes curious about your peace. That's when the chase ends, because the chaser disappears. There is a silence inside you that has magnetic power. The more you live in it, the more things begin to align without your interference. You start to notice synchronicities. You meet the right person at the right time. The opportunity appears just when it's needed. The path unfolds without planning. This is not luck, it is resonance. When you are peaceful, you vibrate at the same frequency as existence. And life starts to cooperate. And when that happens, money no longer feels like something to earn. It feels like something that happens while you're busy living. So stop fighting with life. Stop shouting your prayers as if the universe were deaf. Instead, whisper through silence. Trust that what is meant for you cannot miss you. Sit under your inner tree and wait for the wind to bring what you need. You'll see when the storm of striving comes, the river of abundance begins to flow, and you'll wonder why you ever ran so hard in the first place. What I'm about to say may shake the very foundation on which your idea of wealth has been built. You've been told that to live richly, you must own much, that the measure of a man's success is counted in coins, in titles, in possessions. Yet I tell you, the richest person is the one who has discovered how little he truly needs. The more you need, the poorer you are. The less you need, the freer you become. Look deeply, and you'll see that those who have filled their houses with things often live emptier lives than the one who owns nothing but a song in his heart. Possessions can decorate your world, but they cannot enrich your being. They can fill your closet, but not your silence. They can surround you with glitter, but they cannot light your soul. I have seen kings living like beggars and beggars living like emperors. The difference is not in what they have, but in what they are. There was once a king who ruled a vast empire, yet he could not sleep. His palace was made of gold, but his nights were filled with unrest. One evening he looked down from his balcony and saw a beggar sleeping peacefully under a tree. The man had no roof, no riches, no guards, but he had something the king had never known: peace. The next morning, the king sent for the beggar and asked, "What secret do you possess that allows you to sleep so soundly?" The beggar laughed and said, "Your Majesty, my treasure is light. I do not guard it, I live it." That night, the king laid down his crown and slept on the ground beside the beggar. For the first time in years, he slept like a child. When you stop carrying the weight of possessions, you discover the joy of simplicity. Simplicity is not poverty, it is clarity. Poverty is when you have nothing and still crave more. Simplicity is when you may have much but you crave nothing. A simple life is not a punishment. It is liberation from the madness of excess. The moment you begin to simplify, you begin to see. And what you see is breathtaking. That the air, the trees, the morning light, the laughter of a child are all treasures that money cannot purchase. The richest man on earth is poor if he cannot enjoy the ordinary. The poorest man is rich if he can see wonder in the simplest things. But the modern world has turned this truth upside down. It glorifies accumulation, celebrates consumption, and worships the noise of achievement. You are told to keep upgrading your car, your life. You think you are rising, but the mountain you climb has no peak. Every step only increases your thirst. The more you fill your life with possessions, the more you are haunted by what could be missing. And the tragedy is that you begin to mistake clutter for comfort, indulgence for joy, luxury for love. You spend years building a cage out of your own desires, a golden one perhaps, but still a cage. True richness arises when you realize you already have everything you need to live fully. When gratitude becomes your natural state, abundance follows you effortlessly. The man who can close his eyes and feel thankful for the breath in his lungs, the food on his plate, the laughter in his home. That man has found the treasure the world is still digging for. Gratitude opens the door to wealth because it dissolves the illusion of lack. You begin to see that life has always been generous. It was only your blindness that made it seem otherwise. There's a story of a man wandering in the desert. His hands clutched a bag full of diamonds, but his lips were cracked with thirst. He refused to let go of the bag, though every step made him weaker. Finally he fell, his diamonds scattering across the sand, their brilliance mocking the sun. He had wealth but no wisdom, possessions but no peace. This is the image of the modern man dying of thirst in the midst of abundance, clutching what he cannot drink. What he needs is not more water. He needs awareness to see that the oasis was always within. When you begin to live as if nothing is missing, you see abundance everywhere, even in your challenges. You start to realize that life's value is not in its length or its luxury, but in its depth. You begin to taste the richness of a quiet morning, the opulence of solitude, the wealth of contentment. You discover that joy is not found in the having, but in the being, in the simple awareness of existence itself. Money can buy you comfort, but it cannot buy you peace. It can decorate your surroundings, but it cannot illuminate your soul. Only awareness does that. Awareness turns ordinary life into celebration. When you are present, even the smallest act becomes sacred. Eating, walking, breathing. And in that awareness, money loses its tyranny over your mind. It becomes a tool again useful. Yes, but not vital to your happiness. You begin to spend freely because fear no longer controls you. And you give generously because you no longer believe in lack. So live richly, but let your richness be invisible. Let it be in your smile, in your calm, in your freedom. Let people look at you and wonder, what does he have that I don't? And let your answer be silence. Because true wealth cannot be spoken. It can only be lived. When you start living as if nothing is missing, you will see abundance everywhere. Even in the breath, even in silence, even in the spaces between words. That is where the true treasure waits. Not in your bank, but in your being. Now we come to the heart of the journey. The place where the seeker finally stops seeking. Where the mind loosens its last grip and the soul opens like the sky after the storm. This is what I call the ultimate freedom. The freedom that comes when you no longer need money or success or approval or anything at all to feel alive. You have spent so long believing that freedom comes after something, after security, after wealth, after recognition. But freedom does not wait at the end of your achievements. It waits behind your attachments. The moment you stop depending on money to give you peace, you discover peace was already here. It was never missing, only hidden beneath your fear of losing what was never yours to begin with. Money can serve love, but it can never replace it. You can use money to build hospitals, feed the hungry, or create beauty. Then money becomes sacred, a servant of compassion. But when you use it to fill the void within you, it becomes poison. Money magnifies what you are. If you are unconscious, it magnifies your greed. If you are awake, it magnifies your grace. The problem was never money. It was your forgetfulness. You started believing that having something outside could fix something inside. But how can a thing heal a feeling? How can a number on a screen touch the vastness of your being? The man who lives in fear of poverty is not poor because he lacks money. He is poor because he lacks trust. The rich man who holds his wealth is not rich because of what he owns. He's poor because of what he cannot let go of. Real abundance belongs to the one who can give freely without fear. When you are not afraid to lose, life cannot take anything from you. When you no longer grasp, everything starts flowing toward you because there is no longer resistance in your energy. That is the paradox. The less you need, the more life gives. There was a man who once came to me carrying a bag full of jewels. He said, "Master, I am terrified of losing these. They are my life's work. my only security. I asked him to place them beside him and close his eyes. He did. For a few moments he sat silently. Then I said, now imagine that the jewels are gone. Feel that loss completely. His breath quickened, his body tensed. Then slowly I told him, now imagine that you yourself are gone. No body, no breath, no thought. A strange calm came over him. His face softened when he opened his eyes. He said, when I imagined my death, the fear of losing the jewels disappeared. I smiled and said, yes, because when you realize that you own nothing, not even yourself, there is nothing left to fear. That moment he laughed. The first free laughter of his life. That laughter was his liberation. This is what I mean by letting money flow like water. It must pass through you, not stay with you. The ocean never holds a single wave. It lets them all come and go, and yet it never runs dry. That is abundance. The miser is like a pond, stagnant and shrinking, afraid to let its water flow, afraid of emptiness. The awakened one is like the sea, constantly giving, constantly receiving, never afraid because it knows it cannot be emptied. What flows lives, what clings dives. And once you see this, something incredible happens. You begin to play with life instead of fight it. You start to use money creatively, not compulsively. You may still have a house, a business, or even great wealth. But now they are expressions of your being, not substitutes for it. They no longer define you. You can walk away from everything and still remain whole. You can sleep under a roof or under the stars and still feel at home. You can hold riches in your hands, but your heart stays free. This is the true art of living, to move through the world without being bound by it. I have lived surrounded by riches, and I have lived with nothing at all. In both I was the same. The silk robes or the naked skin, they changed nothing inside. Because what I am cannot be touched by what I have. That is the beauty of awakening. When you discover that joy is not dependent on circumstances, peace is not dependent on possessions, and love is not dependent on another's presence, you become untouchable in the most beautiful way, not because you've built walls, but because you become vast. When you reach this understanding, the chase finally ends. The world no longer seduces you with promises of more, because you have tasted what enough truly means, and enough is infinite. The joy of enough is the greatest luxury you will ever know. From that stillness, giving becomes natural. You no longer give because you should. You give because you can't help it. Life overflows through you. You share because your hands are too full of being to hold anything else. Now the search has reversed. You are no longer running after wealth. You have become the wealth itself. The river has stopped chasing the ocean because it has discovered it was never separate. What can the world offer to one who already has everything within? What can money buy for one who has already found eternity in a single breath? This is the ultimate freedom, to walk through life untouched by its temptations. To own everything yet desire nothing. To live fully yet cling to nothing. And once you taste this freedom, you will never again be fooled by the glitter of gold. You will see that the true treasure was always hidden in your own silence, waiting for you to stop chasing and start being.